Rain pounded the diner's windows as Clara slammed the pen onto the counter. "I said no, Mr. Hartfield," she snapped, her voice trembling with both fear and fury. The man across from her, wearing a suit too perfect for a place that smelled of coffee and rain, didn't flinch. "You don't understand what you're refusing," he said calmly, his eyes cold and measured. "I understand perfectly," Clara replied. "You're not buying land, you're buying people's lives." Silence filled the air, heavy and electric. Outside, thunder rolled, as if the storm itself sided with a defiance. Mr. Hartfield leaned forward, lowering his voice to something darker. "Everyone else signed," he said. "You're the only one holding this deal back." Clara crossed her arms, heart pounding so hard it almost drowned out the rain. "Then maybe everyone else forgot what this place means," she said, her jaw set. The neon open sign flickered weakly beside her reflection in the window, fragile but still burning. "I'm not selling. Not for your money, not for anyone's." The agent smiled thinly, sliding the unsigned papers toward her one last time. "You'll regret that." The bell over the door jingled as he left, the sound cutting through the storm like the echo of a verdict. Clara stood still, staring at the papers he'd left behind, her breath shaking. The rain outside blurred the world into watercolor. Her neighborhood, her friends, the old houses that had stood for generations. She felt the weight of it all pressing against her chest. Everyone had told her to take the deal. Everyone said she couldn't stop what was coming. But she refused to let their world be erased for profit. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this wasn't just business. It was war. She reached the phone behind the counter and dialed the same number she'd been calling all week. It rang twice before a voice answered, tired but familiar. "Clara? Please tell me you signed," said Luis, her childhood friend and one of few still living in the neighborhood. "He was here," she said quietly, "and I didn't." There was silence on the other end. "You're going to make them angry," Luis warned. Clara's eyes hardened as lightning flashed outside. "Then let them be angry," she whispered. "I'm not letting them bury our home." Outside, a black car waited across the street, engine idling, headlights glowing like eyes watching her. Clara noticed it, but didn't move. She'd known this wouldn't be easy. People like Mr. Hartfield didn't take no for an answer. But she wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was the last line of defense for a forgotten corner of the city. One that still believed in neighbors, in kindness, in shared stories over coffee. She turned off the lights, locking the diner door behind her, the storm following her into the night like an omen. The neighborhood of East Willow wasn't much to look at. Cracked sidewalks, paint peeling off old porches, and the faint hum of radios in every home. But to the people who lived there, it was everything. The diner sat at the heart of it all, where birthdays were celebrated, secrets shared, and kindness traded like currency. Clara's mother had opened it 40 years ago, feeding the hungry even when they couldn't pay. Now it was all that remained untouched by the city's hunger for development, and that made it a target. For months, rumors spread of a massive luxury complex plan to replace East Willow. Sleek towers, glass walls, and rent that no one from the neighborhood could ever afford. One by one, homeowners sold their land, worn down by fear and persuasion. Only the diner stood between Hartfield's company and total control. "It's just business," people said. But to Clara, it wasn't business. It was betrayal. Each signature that sold a home felt like another piece of her childhood fading into dust. She refused to let her mother's dream die for someone else's profit. She spent her nights cleaning the diner alone, the hum of the old jukebox filling the silence. Sometimes, the memories came back so vividly that she could almost hear her mother's voice. "Never let them take kindness out of this place, Clara. Once kindness is gone, the world turns cold." She would look around at the empty booths and coffee-stained menus and whisper back, "I won't, Mom." But the truth was, she didn't know how much longer she could fight. Bills piled up. Customers were leaving, and the world outside didn't seem to care. Then came the first sign that things were getting dangerous. One morning, she found the diner's back window shattered, glass scattered across the floor like ice. Nothing was stolen, but a note lay on the counter in neat handwriting. "You're standing in the way of progress." No signature, no name, Just a message and a warning. Clara picked it up, her hands trembling, and crumpled it into her pocket. That night, she called Luis again. "They're trying to scare me," she said. "Then don't give them what they want," he replied. "Fear only works if you listen to it." But even Luis sounded unsure. Everyone was scared. A few of the older residents had already left, their houses boarded up and quiet. The once bustling streets of East Willow now echoed with absence. Yet every morning, Clara opened the diner anyway, pouring coffee, smiling, pretending nothing had changed. The regulars who remained admired her courage, but feared her stubbornness. "You're gonna get yourself hurt," one whispered. Clara just smiled, pouring him another cup. "Then at least I'll know I didn't let them win." The next day, Clara opened the diner early, the air still thick with last night's rain. As she arranged the menus, she noticed a sleek black car pull up outside, the same one she'd seen idling across the street. Her stomach tightened. A moment later, the bell above the door chimed, and in walked Mr. Hartfield, dressed in a different suit, but wearing the same calm arrogance. "You start work early," he said, removing his gloves. "I don't have anyone to pay my bills for me," Clara replied coldly. He smiled faintly. "Still as stubborn as yesterday, I see." His presence filled the room like smoke. He sat at the counter, motioning for a cup of coffee. Against her better judgment, Clara poured him one. "So," he began, stirring the sugar slowly, "why is this place worth losing everything for?" She crossed her arms. "Because it's more than walls and floors," she said. "It's where people remember who they are." Hartfield looked up, studying her. "You talk about this neighborhood like it's holy ground." "Maybe it is," she replied. "At least it was, before men like you decided to sell its soul." His spoon froze mid-stir. For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Something almost human. He took a slow sip before speaking again. "You think I don't know what I'm doing?" he said quietly. "You think I haven't walked these streets? I grew up 3 blocks from here, Clara." The words hit her harder than she expected. "You what?" He nodded. "Back when the streets were alive. Before the factories closed. Before the dealers came. Before hope left." His voice softened, his tone no longer cold but worn. "I tried to rebuild it once. No one wanted change." Clara frowned. "So you decided to destroy it instead?" He sighed. "I decided to survive." For the first time, she saw him not as a villain, but as something far more complicated. A man hardened by loss, blinded by ambition, maybe even regret. "You tell yourself this is progress," she said softly, "but you're just building tombstones with glass walls." The words hung between them, cutting through his defenses. Hartfield set down the cup and stared at her for a long moment. "You sound like my mother," he muttered. She believed this neighborhood could be saved. "She was right," Clara replied. "It still can." He gave a bitter smile. "Maybe you're the only one who believes that anymore." Outside, a few kids ran past in the street, their laughter echoing faintly through the cracked windows. Hartfield turned to look, his face unreadable. "You can't stop what's coming," he said, but this time, his voice lacked conviction. Clara stepped closer, her voice firm but calm. "Maybe not, but I can slow it down long enough for people to remember what they're fighting for." He stood, adjusting his tie, something shifting in his eyes. "Be careful, Clara," he said, walking toward the door. "There are people involved in this who don't care about stories or memories." She watched him leave, the rain starting to fall again, soft but relentless. That night, Clara closed the diner later than usual. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and silent. She turned off the neon sign and stepped outside, locking the door behind her. The neighborhood was asleep, but something about the silence felt wrong. Too complete, too heavy. As she walked toward her car, she noticed a black SUV parked under a flickering streetlight. It wasn't Hartfield's. The engine idled quietly, its windows tinted. She slowed her steps, her pulse rising. Then, from inside, the window rolled down just enough for her to see a red ember, the glow of a cigarette. Someone was watching her. She turned away, forcing her breathing to stay even. "Don't run," she told herself. Running would make her look scared. The SUV didn't move as she got into her car, but when she started the engine, its headlights turned on, 2 blinding circles cutting through the dark. She drove off quickly, her tires splashing through puddles. For 3 blocks, the SUV followed. When she turned left, it turned left. When she slowed, it slowed. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. Finally, she pulled onto a narrow side street, parking behind the old church, and killed her lights. The SUV passed slowly, then vanished. But Clara knew it wasn't over. By the time she reached home, her nerves were on fire. She double-locked the door and leaned against it, exhaling hard. Her small apartment felt colder than usual, the ticking of the kitchen clock echoing like footsteps. She checked the window. No SUV, no headlights, just the soft glow of the city beyond the rain-streaked glass. She grabbed her phone, hesitating for a second before calling Luis. "They followed me," she whispered. "Who?" he asked, his voice immediately alert. "I don't know, but it wasn't Hartfield." There was silence on the line. Then Luis said what she already feared. "Then it's his investors." Clara sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor. She'd heard rumors about the men funding Hartfield's project. Silent partners, hidden names, people who use intimidation as easily as money. "You should go to the police," Luis said. Clara laughed bitterly. "And tell them what?" "That a rich man's friends are scaring a waitress into selling her diner." She shook her head. "They'd call me crazy." Luis sighed. "Then promise me you'll be careful." Clara's voice softened. "I promise." But she didn't mean it. Deep down, she knew that if she gave up now, the neighborhood would disappear. And so would everything her mother stood for. That night, sleep refused to come. Every creak in the apartment made her flinch. Every gust of wind felt like footsteps outside. She sat by the window, watching the city lights blur into the darkness. In the reflection, she saw her mother's photo on the shelf, smiling, proud, unafraid. "I can't let them win, Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking. The next morning, she opened the diner again like nothing had happened. But she could feel it, the shift in the air, the invisible eyes watching. The fight for East Willow had just changed, and Claire was no longer facing businessmen. She was facing something far more dangerous. By the 3rd morning after the incident, Clara's exhaustion was visible. Her eyes were shadowed, her hands trembling slightly as she served coffee. But beneath the fatigue was something new, resolve. Word about the mysterious SUV had spread fast. In small towns, secrets travel like smoke. "They're trying to scare you," said Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly regular who'd lived in East Willow her entire life. "But they forget, fear doesn't work on people with nothing left to lose." Her words lit something inside Clara, a small, defiant flame. Maybe she wasn't alone after all. That afternoon, as sunlight finally broke through the gray clouds, Clara placed a handwritten sign in the diner window. "Community meeting tonight, 7 p.m. Everyone welcome." It was simple, but it drew attention. By sunset, word had spread across East Willow like wildfire. People came, some curious, some angry, most just scared. The diner filled with faces she hadn't seen in months. Old factory workers, single mothers, retired teachers, even a few teenagers who'd grown up on the same cracked sidewalk she had. The smell of coffee mixed with tension and hope. Clara stood on the counter to be heard. "They think we're weak," she began, her voice trembling but steady. "They think money can erase everything we've built here. But they're wrong." The room grew quiet. "This neighborhood raised us," she continued. "We laughed here, cried here, survived here. And I'm not selling that, not for any amount of money." Someone in the back clapped, then another and another, until the entire diner thundered with applause. For the first time, Clara saw it, the spark she'd been waiting for. People remembered who they were. After the meeting, small groups lingered, whispering plans and sharing old memories. Luis approached her, eyes wide with pride. "You did it," he said. "They're finally listening." Clara smiled faintly, wiping a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "It's just a start," she said. "But maybe that's all we need." As the crowd dispersed, a few volunteers stayed behind, sketching ideas on napkins, petitions, fundraisers, social media campaigns. The diner buzzed with purpose. It wasn't much, but it was more than fear. It was fight. Later that night, after everyone had left, Clara locked the door and turned off the lights. The storm had passed, but a new kind of electricity filled the air, the kind that comes before revolution. She looked out at the empty street, whispering to herself, "They wanted me to give up. Instead, I woke everyone up." For the first time in weeks, she smiled. Whatever happened next, she wouldn't face it alone. East Willow was stirring, and the people were finally ready to take back what was theirs. By the end of the week, East Willow was buzzing with energy again. Flyers appeared on telephone poles, social media pages sprang to life, and the phrase "Save Our Home" began trending across the city. For the first time in years, the forgotten neighborhood was being noticed, not as a slum, but as a community worth saving. Clara's Diner became the movement's headquarters, a place where plans were made and fears dissolved over coffee. But the louder their voices grew, the more powerful people started to listen, and not the kind who believed in democracy. 2 nights later, the first sign of retaliation arrived. Clara unlocked the diner one morning to find the front window smashed again. Only this time, spray paint across the glass were the words, "You'll lose." The word dripped crimson like fresh blood. Her stomach twisted as she stared at it. Her reflection fractured among the broken shards. Louis arrived minutes later, his face pale with anger. "This isn't vandalism," he said. "It's a message." Clara nodded, her jaw tight. "Then we'll answer it." She taped a handwritten note over graffiti. "Still open." By noon, every booth in the diner was full again. People came not just for food, but to show they weren't afraid. News crews appeared outside, cameras flashing as reporters interviewed locals. "She's the heart of this," said one woman. "They can break glass, but they can't break her." Clara watched from behind the counter, half embarrassed, half proud. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her. From somewhere beyond the cameras, beyond the cheers, in the reflection of the window, she caught sight of a black SUV again, parked across the street, watching, always watching. That evening, Mr. Hartfield returned. No entourage this time, no arrogance, just quiet tension. "They're not happy," he said, sliding into a booth. "Your little rebellion is costing them money." Clara crossed her arms. "Then maybe they shouldn't have tried to buy what isn't for sale." His eyes flicked toward the window, where a camera crew was still filming. "You've made yourself a symbol, Clara. That's dangerous." "Only for people with something to hide," she shot back. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "You don't understand. These men don't negotiate. They erase problems." She froze. "And you think I'm a problem?" His silence was answer enough. The air between them thickened, every word charged with unspoken meaning. Finally, he stood, buttoning his jacket. "I tried to warn you," he said, "but I can't protect you anymore." "I didn't ask you to," she replied. He hesitated, then looked at her with something almost like regret. "Just keep the lights on," he murmured. "Darkness is when they move." And then he was gone, swallowed by the night. Clara stood behind the counter, her pulse pounding, the message echoing in her mind. For the first time, she realized how real the danger had become. The war for East Willow wasn't just business. It was survival. The sound of sirens tore through the night like screams. Clara woke to the smell of smoke, thick and sharp, burning her throat. She rushed to the window and froze. The diner was on fire. Flames devoured the roof, painting the night sky orange, sparks drifting into the air like dying stars. Her hands shook as she grabbed her coat and ran barefoot into the street. By the time she reached the corner, a crowd had already gathered, their faces pale with shock. "Someone did this," a man shouted. "They said it on purpose." But Clara didn't need to be told. She already knew. She pushed past the firefighters, her voice hoarse from shouting. "Let me through. That's my diner." One of them stopped her, holding her back. "Ma'am, it's too dangerous," he yelled over the roar of the flames. But she couldn't stop staring at the door, the same door her mother had painted red decades ago. Now it was blackening, curling, collapsing. The sign that once read open 24 hours fell with a crash. Clara felt something inside her break. The place that had carried her childhood, her hope, her rebellion, was burning to ashes before her eyes. Luis found her standing in the street, rain beginning to fall again, hissing as it hit the fire. He put a hand on her shoulder, but she didn't react. "They did this to scare you," he said softly. "To end it." She turned to him slowly, her face streaked with ash and tears. "Then they don't know me," she said. "This isn't the end." Her voice cracked, but her eyes blazed with something stronger than pain. "They think they burned a building. What they really did was wake a city." Luis looked at her, realizing something had shifted. The woman in front of him wasn't broken. She was becoming something unstoppable. By dawn, the diner was nothing but smoke and ruin. News crews arrived again, their cameras capturing the devastation. The story spread faster than the fire itself. Community Heroes Diner burned an arson attack. Donations began pouring in online. Strangers reaching out from across the country. Hashtags trended. Reporters begged for interviews, and by noon, East Willow wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a movement. People gathered at the ruins, leaving flowers, candles, and notes of support. Clara stood among them, silent, letting the grief settle into resolve. That afternoon, as she sifted through the wreckage, she found something half buried under charred wood, a small, unburned photograph of her mother standing behind the counter, smiling, flower on her hands. Clara knelt down, clutching into her chest. "You built this place on love," she whispered, voice trembling. "Now I'll rebuild it on courage." Behind her, Luis placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "They took your walls," he said, "but not your story." She looked up at the horizon, where sunlight was breaking through the clouds. "No," she said softly, "our story's just getting started." The morning after the fire, the air smelled of smoke and rain, but beneath it was something else: determination. People gathered around the ruins of the diner, bringing tools, gloves, and food. No one asked who organized it. They just came. Clara stood among them, still wearing the same soot-stained jacket from the night before. "We can rebuild," said an older man with cracked hands and a tired smile. "We've done it before." She nodded, her throat tight. "Then let's start now." Word spread quickly. East Willow was rising again, not through money, but through unity. The news caught fire across the country. Videos of volunteers rebuilding the diner went viral. Men, women, and children hammering, cleaning, painting, laughing through exhaustion. Donations multiplied overnight. Architects offered free designs. Artists pledged murals. Even local businesses donated supplies. It wasn't about a building anymore. It was about defiance. Every nail driven into the wood felt like a declaration. We are still here. As the walls began to stand again, Clara could almost feel her mother's presence in the wind. Soft, approving, proud. But not everyone celebrated. Hartfield's investors grew restless, furious that their plan was unraveling in public. News of the arson had turned them into villains overnight. They demanded Hartfield clean up the mess. He tried to reason with them, but the tone of their emails grew sharper, threatening. The girls assembled now. One message read, "Symbols must be erased." He stared at the words for a long time before slamming his laptop shut. Something in him snapped that day. He had been complicit too long, a puppet for men who only cared about profit. For the first time, he decided to fight on the other side. 2 days later, Hartfield walked into the construction site unannounced. The workers stopped, surprised to see him. Clara turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "If you came to gloat, you're wasting your time," she said. "I didn't," he replied quietly. "I came to help." The word stunned her. "Why would you help the people you tried to destroy?" He took off his jacket, rolling up his sleeves. "Because I'm tired of being one of them." Around them, the volunteers exchanged uncertain glances, but Clara saw something different in his face, remorse, maybe even redemption. "You can start by sweeping," she said. "Everyone here earns their place." That day, something extraordinary happened. The man who once threatened to erase a neighborhood now lifted debris beside the people he'd nearly displaced. Cameras caught the moment. Hartfield, the real estate agent, working beside Clara, the waitress. The photo went viral in hours, becoming a symbol of reconciliation. From destroyer to builder, the headlines read. But for Clara, it wasn't about headlines. It was about healing. As the sun set behind the half-built diner, she stood beside Hartfield, both covered in dust and sweat. "You can't undo the past," she said softly, "but you can build something better." He nodded, and maybe that's enough. By the end of the week, the diner's new frame stood tall, gleaming under the sunlight like a monument to resilience. People called it the Heart of Willow. News outlets hailed Clara and Hartfield as symbols of unity, unlikely allies who proved compassion could rebuild what greed had destroyed. Every night, volunteers gathered around the site, eating together, singing old songs, and sharing laughter that hadn't been heard in years. For a brief moment, it felt like the neighborhood had already won, but shadows never disappear completely. They just wait for the right moment to return. Late one evening, Luis arrived at the construction site, his expression grim. He motioned Clara aside, away from the others. "We've got a problem," he whispered. "Hartfield's been meeting with someone." Clara frowned. "Meeting with who?" Luis hesitated, then handed her his phone. On the screen was a blurry photo. Hartfield, shaking hands with a man in a gray suit beside the black SUV. "I saw them behind City Hall last night," Luis said. "That's one of the investors. The same people who burned your diner." Clara's heart stopped cold. "No," she said quietly. "He wouldn't," but doubt crept in like poison. That night, she couldn't sleep. The memory of Hartfield's tired eyes, his quiet sincerity, kept flashing in her mind. Had it all been an act? A setup to rebuild his reputation? She tossed and turned, the storm outside echoing the one raging inside her chest. Finally, just before dawn, she decided to find out for herself. She drove to his office downtown, a sterile, glass fortress glowing against the night. His car was there, and so was the man from the photograph. Clara parked a block away, her pulse pounding. Through the lobby window, she saw them talking, Hartfield tense, the investor smiling. Papers exchanged hands. She waited until the man left before storming inside. The security guard tried to stop her, but the fire in her eyes was enough to make him step aside. Hartfield looked up from his desk, startled. "Clara? What are you?" "Save it!" She cut him off, slamming the photo onto his desk. "You lied to me." He stared at it, then sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "It's not what it looks like." "It always isn't," she snapped. "You said you were on our side." His voice rose for the first time. "I am. You think I don't know what they've done? But there are contracts, politics, threats you can't even imagine. So you're still one of them," she said bitterly. The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Finally, Hartfield looked up, his eyes heavy. "Clara, I'm trying to fix this from the inside. You have no idea what these men are capable of. And you think I should believe that?" she asked, tears stinging her eyes. "After everything?" He stood, his face torn between anger and guilt. "You can believe whatever you want, but don't think I stopped fighting." She turned toward the door. "You already did," she said quietly, "the moment you let them back in." And then she was gone, leaving him standing alone under the cold, sterile lights, surrounded by the ghosts of choices he could no longer justify. Clara didn't go home that night. She drove aimlessly through the sleeping city, her mind spiraling between fury and heartbreak. The skyline shimmered with the same glass towers that had replaced neighborhoods like hers, cold monuments to greed. Every red light reflected in her eyes like fire. "He used us," she whispered, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. "He used me." The betrayal hurt more than the arson, more than the threats, because this time it came from someone she had dared to trust. But pain, she realized, was just fuel waiting for a spark. And by dawn, she knew exactly what she needed to do. At sunrise, she returned to the diner site, the half-built frame casting long shadows over cracked pavement. Luis was already there, handing out coffee to volunteers. When he saw her, he frowned. "Clara, where were you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she climbed onto a wooden crate and called out, "Everyone, listen up!" Conversation stopped. "We've been building," she began, her voice steady but fierce. "But they're still trying to tear us down. They want to buy silence with money and lies. I'm done waiting for permission to fight back. It's time we take this to City Hall." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "They don't listen to people like us," someone shouted. Clara looked up at the rising sun. "Then we'll make them." That afternoon, East Willow transformed. Flyers were printed, signs painted, chants rehearsed. For the first time, the fight wasn't about a diner. It was about every forgotten street in the city. Mothers, teachers, and construction workers joined side by side, their voices echoing through alleyways. "We are Willow. We are home," they shouted. By evening, hundreds marched toward downtown, Claire at the front, her face streaked with determination and wind-blown hair. The city had tried to erase them quietly, but that night, the noise of their defiance could be heard miles away. When they reached City Hall, police barricades waited. Officers lined the steps, expressionless, shields reflecting the angry glow of streetlights. The mayor's aide stood at the top, refusing to meet their eyes. Clara stepped forward, holding a megaphone. "We're not here to beg," she said, her voice amplified and raw. "We're here to be seen. You've taken our homes, our jobs, our peace, but not our dignity." The crowd roared. "You can bulldoze our walls, but you can't bulldoze our will." For a moment, the city froze, a sea of power suits facing a tide of ordinary people who finally refused to disappear. From a distance, someone watched. A man in a gray suit, the same investor who had burned her diner. He leaned against his car, phone pressed his ear. "She's becoming a problem," he said coldly. "Handle it." Across the street, another figure watched too, Hartfield. His expression was torn, guilt battling fear. When he saw the investor's car pull away, something inside him broke for good. He pulled out his phone and began typing an email that could destroy everything. His career, his safety, his name. If Clara was risking everything for truth, he thought, then so would he. That night, as the protests echoed through downtown, Hartfield sat alone in his penthouse office. The city lights shimmered below like 1,000 silent witnesses. His laptop screen glowed in the darkness, illuminating the tremor in his hands. For years, he had buried every compromise, every lie. Contracts signed under threats, developments approved with bribes, names erased from ledgers. Now, all of it sat before him in a single encrypted file. He hesitated for a long moment, knowing once he sent it, there was no going back. Then he whispered to himself, "No more silence," and press send. The email shot across the internet. Copies hidden in cloud servers and anonymous accounts. It contained everything. The arson orders, the bribery trails, even the mayor's involvement. Within hours, journalists were calling it the East Willow scandal. News outlets exploded with coverage. The same corporations that had backed the project scrambled to release statements denying any involvement. The mayor canceled all public appearances. And the investors, the faceless men behind the curtain, vanished into silence. Hartfield leaned back in his chair, exhaustion washing over him. For the first time in decades, he felt free. Meanwhile, Clara stood before City Hall, megaphone still in hand, unaware that her fight had just ignited a national fire. Reporters began surrounding her, shouting questions. "Miss Thompson, how do you respond to the leaked documents? Did you know about the corruption?" She blinked in confusion. "What documents?" A journalist thrust a phone toward her. On the screen was a headline. "Whistleblower exposes real estate empire. East Willow fire linked to political bribery." Her breath caught. "He did it," she whispered. Luis leaned over her shoulder, reading aloud. "He exposed them, Clara." Hartfield blew it all up. The crowd erupted. Cheers, tears, applause. The sound of the city finally waking up. People chanted her name, but Clara shook her head. "No," she said softly. "This isn't just about me. This is for everyone they tried to silence." She looked up at the city hall steps, at the officers lowering their shields and letting the people through. For the first time, power shifted, not through violence, but through truth. Reporters streamed live as citizens poured into the courtyard, holding signs, candles, and each other's hands. The air buzzed with victory, disbelief, and hope reborn. But miles away, inside a dark office tower, someone else was watching. The man in the gray suit stood by the window, his reflection cold and unreadable. "He leaked it," said a voice over the phone. "Yes," he replied, "and now he's a liability." He hung up, pocketed the phone, and poured himself a drink. "If they think this story is over," he murmured, staring out at the flickering skyline, "they haven't learned how this city works." Lightning flashed behind him, illuminating his smirk. For every truth that surfaced, there was always another shadow waiting to rise. The next morning, the headlines blazed with triumph. Corruption exposed. East Willow redeemed. Clara barely had time to breathe. She was invited to speak on television, meet community leaders, and even appear at city events. But celebration carried an uneasy silence beneath it. Luis noticed first. "Have you seen Hartfield?" he asked. "He hasn't answered calls since last night." Clara frowned. "Maybe he's hiding from reporters. Or from someone worse," Louise muttered. The thought stuck in her chest like a stone. Because deep down, she knew men like the ones Hartfield had betrayed didn't just forgive. They erased. By evening, her fears were confirmed. A black SUV pulled up outside her apartment, engine rumbling like a growl. Clara peeked through the blinds, heart pounding. Two men stepped out, the same polished, empty faces she'd seen months ago. They didn't knock. They waited, watching, waiting. Her phone buzzed, a single message from an unknown number. "You should have stayed quiet." She dropped it in shock, the words glowing on the screen like a death sentence. She turned off the lights, breathing shallowly, her reflection trembling in the window. The SUV didn't move for hours. Meanwhile, across town, Hartfield sat alone in a motel room, laptop destroyed, phone smashed. He had driven all night, changing routes, watching his mirrors. Every sound made him flinch. He knew this was coming. "They won't stop," he whispered. His eyes darted toward the door, where shadows danced under flickering hallway light. A memory flashed, his mother's voice telling him, "One day, Michael, you'll have to choose between doing what's safe and doing what's right." He smiled bitterly. "Well, Mom, I finally chose." Then, pulling out a small flash drive, he whispered, "And if I go down, they go down with me." At dawn, Clara's phone rang again, this time from a blocked number. She hesitated before answering. "Clara?" It was Hartfield's voice, rough and tired. Relief flooded her. "Were you? Are you safe?" "For now," he said. "But they're coming. You need to leave the city." "I'm not running," she said firmly. "This is my home." "Then they'll use that against you," he replied. "They always do." A pause, then softer. "I sent the last files to the journalist. If they reach her, this ends for good. And if they don't, then they'll end us." The line went dead. Hours later, Louise burst into her apartment, out of breath. "Clara, Hartfield's missing." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "They found his car abandoned by the river." She froze, her world spinning. "No," she whispered. "He wouldn't just vanish." Louise grabbed her shoulders. "If they got him, you could be next." Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, fading into the hum of the city, pretending to sleep. Clara turned toward the window, her eyes narrowing at the skyline that once looked like home. "Then let them come," she said. "I'm done running from ghosts." The storm wasn't over. It was only gathering strength. Night fell heavy and quiet, the city holding its breath. The streets of East Willow were nearly empty, lit only by broken lamps and the faint hum of electricity. Clara sat inside the rebuilt diner, now a symbol brighter than any billboard downtown. The chairs were stacked, the lights dimmed, but she wasn't alone. Louis stood by the door, eyes on the street. "They'll come tonight," he said. "You don't have to be here." Clara shook her head, gripping the photo of her mother she always carried. "If they destroy it again, I'll be here to see it, and I'll rebuild it again tomorrow." Her voice trembled, but her eyes didn't. The clock ticked past midnight. Outside, the sound of tires cut through the silence. Headlights approached. Slow, deliberate. The black SUV rolled to a stop across the street. 3 men stepped out, dressed in black, faces shadowed. Luis swallowed hard. Clara, but she didn't move. She pushed the door open and stepped outside into the cold night air, the wind whipping through her hair. "You don't have to do this," she shouted. The tallest man smirked. "Lady, you talk too much." He pulled something from his coat, a lighter. Its flame tiny but deadly in the dark. "Not again," Clara said, stepping closer. "You're not burning this place again." The man laughed, but before he could speak, another voice came from the shadows. "She's right. You're done." A figure stepped into the light. Hartfield. His face was bruised, his coat torn, but his eyes burned with the same fire that lived in Clara's. "You," the man spat. "You should have stayed buried." Hartfield held up a flash drive. "This is everything. Every document, every payment, every name. It's already been sent to 5 news agencies. So go ahead, light the match. The only thing you'll burn now is yourself." The men froze, uncertain. The one with the lighter hesitated, his hand trembling. For a moment, time stood still. The rain began again, soft at first, then heavy, washing over the street like a cleansing flood. Clara stepped forward, her voice calm but fierce. "You think power is owning people's fear. But look around. No one's afraid anymore." Behind her, lights flicked on in nearby houses. One window, then another, until the entire block was awake. People stepped outside with phones, cameras, flashlights. A sea of witnesses. The men exchanged nervous glances. Hartfield smiled grimly. "Welcome to transparency," he said. "You can't hide in the dark when everyone's watching." The SUV doors slammed, engines roared, and within seconds, the men were gone, swallowed by the storm. Clara exhaled, her whole body trembling with relief and disbelief. Luis laughed shakily. "You just stared down the devil and won." Hartfield leaned against the wall, clutching his side. "No," Clara said, looking up at the rain-soaked sky. "We didn't win. We survived. The real victory starts tomorrow." She turned toward the diner, still standing, lights glowing through the rain. "And tomorrow, East Willow opens for everyone again." Hartfield smiled through the pain. "You sound like your mother." "Good," Clara whispered. "That means I'm doing it right." The rain finally stopped just before sunrise. A pale light crept over East Willow, turning puddles into mirrors and smoke into gold. Clara stood outside the diner, the air still heavy with the scent of rain and asphalt. The streets were quiet again, but not empty. Not anymore. Children played in doorways, their laughter echoing off the old brick walls. Neighbors swept sidewalks, painted fences, planted flowers in cracked soil. For the first time in years, East Willow didn't look forgotten. It looked alive. And at the center of it all stood the diner, reborn, its red door gleaming against the morning light. Inside, the first customers were already arriving. Construction workers, teachers, old men who'd lived through every change. Clara poured coffee, smiling as she heard the familiar sound of chatter and clinking cups. Luis leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Feels like the old days," he said. "No," she replied softly, glancing around the room. "Better." On the wall, someone had painted a new mural, hands holding each other beneath the words, "We are Willow." Beneath it, a framed photo of her mother and one of Hartfield side by side, both smiling. The people now knew their story, and it had changed everything. Later that week, city officials announced a new initiative: affordable housing, protection for small businesses, and restoration projects across forgotten districts. Clara was invited to speak at the council meeting. Standing at the podium, she looked out over a crowd of reporters and politicians. "This isn't about one diner or one neighborhood," she said. "It's about every place you said didn't matter. We proved you wrong. We showed that when people stand together, they're stronger than greed." The room erupted in applause. And for a moment, she felt her mother's hand on her shoulder, unseen but there. That night, Clara and Luis sat outside the diner, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of fire and peace. Across the street, the old houses glowed with new life. Kids rode their bikes where silence used to live. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd sold? Luis asked. Clara smiled faintly. All the time. And then I remember, they didn't need another building. They needed a reason to believe again. She looked up at the fading sky. We gave them that. The streetlights flickered on, not in warning, but in welcome. For once, the night didn't feel like an ending. Months later, journalists would still visit East Willow. They'd write about the waitress who saved a neighborhood, and about the businessman who switched sides. But for Clara, it wasn't about fame. It was about every morning she unlocked the diner and saw the same people, laughing, living, belonging. Sometimes, when rain tapped softly against the windows, she'd glance at her mother's picture and whisper, "We did it, Mom." And in that quiet hum of coffee and conversation, she knew one truth. Storms may destroy, but they also cleanse. And from the ashes of greed, she had built something indestructible: hope.